Here.
and Mayor Branscum.
Yes.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Okay. I presume that's okay, Counselor. Mr. City Attorney, anything to report from closed session?
There is no reportable action.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Now move into the community and consent calendar forum, and also a point in the meeting where someone has something they'd like to say that is not on the agenda and they'd like to address the council. They will have time for that. Individuals wishing to address the council concerning consent calendar items or on matters not already on the agenda are invited to make oral comments of up to 3 minutes. If you would like to comment and you are attending the meeting in person, please complete a speaker's card and return that to the city clerk. When called upon, go to the podium to address the council. If you're participating via Zoom, raise your hand via Zoom and you'll be acknowledged. When you're called upon, you'll be unmuted. Whether you're here in person or attending via Zoom, when called upon, please give your name clearly for recording. If you are requested to address your comments to the mayor and the council and not to the audience by state law, the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. If you have any documentation you'd like to be distributed to the council, please mail it to City Clerk, 526 East Street, Marysville, 95901. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak at this time?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker will be Matt Goody.
Mr. Matt Goody, it's good to see you.
Good evening,
Yes, sir.
board members. My name is Matt Goody. I'm the business manager of local Union 228 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters right here in Marysville. Had the pleasure of meeting most of you in person and shaking hands with you. So I'm here tonight to humbly request that we propose a community workforce training agreement for the city of Marysville, whereby it would help us achieve our goals of putting local people to work on local projects. So
that's a mouthful. I mean, that's not many words, but that's a whole lot.
it is. So, you know, we're extremely proud of our training center over here. I can say that we hold the largest training facility north of Sacramento out of any trade, out of any craft trade. So we're pretty proud of that, and we're making really good strides in the community. And I would really appreciate your consideration.
I had the pleasure of seeing Mr. Goody the other day, and commented that I've been driving. I drive by his parking lot all the time where the training goes on, and saw that it had been really full. Except they've been really active. Have you been involved at all with, or are you aware of the folks at the Highland Academy?
I have not.
Connection you might want to make. Give Jim McKell a call. He's got all the contact info. They operate out of the old Notre Dame school.
Okay.
And they are involved in vocational education for people, some of whom may be candidates for your program.
Yeah, the MC3 program that Chris mentioned is through the One Stop, and it's a multi-craft core curriculum course that we put on at our local. and it gives potential people that come in from the one, gives them an idea of all the crafts. So we review every craft from electricians to masonry to concrete, and give them a little bit of an education on all of that. And then as well as that, they do some hands-on training. They do some physical exercises to make sure that they can handle the rigors of construction. So it's a really great great class. It's a month long. The students are there all day, and it's been really great. But we need some help to, once they get out of this program, to get them into an apprenticeship and to put them to work on a local job. The biggest hurdle that we face is after we get them in a program. A lot of times we're sending them down to Sacramento because there's more volume of work down there. There's more opportunities. So I would like to have some more local opportunities for the people that in our community.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
To the chair.
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor.
I was involved somewhat with this when Mark Mullner had brought it. And I think we've got a full proposal. I'm not sure, don't we, Matt? I think we have a.
Yeah, Mark said that it.
Yeah, so just for you, Jim, I know there was a full proposal brought to us. It kept getting tabled and tabled and tabled. So I don't know if it needs to go back to Matt to be relooked at, or if we need to look at it first.
We can dig it up. I think I heard that there was a previous one. I haven't seen it myself yet. And then my guess is if it's been a while, it's outdated, so we'd have to
Probably
relook at it. Okay, and I can connect with you, Matt.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks so much, man.
Oh, and by the way, 228 and myself are the ones that paved the alley. Had to throw that in there. Pay for that. Pay for that.
Living proof you can get stuff happening when you show up at the council meetings. Awesome. Madam Clerk, anyone else?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Our next speaker will be John Kenyon and guests to speak on Ellis Lake. John.
Well, welcome, John. The bell just rang, John.
Oh, thank you.
Well, welcome, y'all.
Hey, so this time I'm not going to take 7 minutes like I did last time. But we just wanted to come and give a little bit of an update on and follow up on the Adopt a Park program for Ellis Lake. So today we actually met with Dan, and we met with Rigo Diaz from Recology, and we signed the paperwork today to start the official process rolling of the Adopt a Park program. And so we have chosen to dedicate the team to their father, right? To their father, Marino Rossellini, who was actually a teacher at Lyndhurst High School for a very long time. And we're actually calling it Coach Rossellini's Cleanup Crew. Continuing his love for our city is basically what it's going to end up being. And with that being said, we're shooting for within the next few weeks getting something on the calendar, getting a group together. Now that we've done that, we can actually rally a little bit of support and get that ball rolling. And we've already had a lot of people interested in jumping in and helping with the projects. And the goal initially is going to be for that first kickoff to have everybody humanly possible there to give one huge once over, and then work out a schedule to where there are people present every week somewhere during the weekend at the lake.
Target date for that first get together?
We are working on that within the next few weeks is what we're going to do.
Well, I live on the lake. I don't want to be embarrassed and not be part of it.
And yes, we're going to let Dan know as soon as we know.
Dan?
Yes. And so we've been working with them too, and with Rigo on getting trash cans, and we're going to start getting some of that stuff put up as well. And we do actually want to take a second to thank Recology for their support, because they've actually been really supportive from the very beginning of the inquiries that we've had. And thank the council and thank Dan and for all the support we've had so far. We haven't had to chase anybody down. It's been really good to be able to have that kind of support to get something off the ground.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you might be interested to linger at least until the first item that will be discussed on the discussion calendar. Item number 3 is going to be pulled from the agenda, and we're going to give an update on some planning work that is being commenced for the water in the lake.
Good.
To the chair,
Oh, please.
is it the whole lake or a portion of it?
It's going to be the whole lake.
Cool.
You guys, y'all are heroes.
We are going to give it our all, folks.
We have a lot of people that we know that are we're gonna make them go over there and help us.
Me too. Awesome. Well, thank you very kindly. Any other
They
comments?
said go big or go home, so.
Well, thank you very much for the update, and we'll be talking about the lake here in just a few moments. Please. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
No further speakers, Mayor.
Okay. The consent calendar is now up. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and therefore approved by one motion unless a council member or the city manager first requests that a matter be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. I'll just kick the ball here before I ask for the roll of the council. I'd like to pull item number 3.
And I'd like to pull item number 6.
And we'll also be pulling item number 6, and we will take those in order. Okay.
I'd like to pull item number 8.
Oh, my goodness sakes, we got to rally here. Okay. Okay, what is the will of the council subject to those 3 polls?
Move to approve.
Move to approve?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And it's approved. Okay. Then we move to the discussion and action calendar, which will include the 3 items pulled from the consent agenda in order. And on this one, I've got another paragraph to read. All matters in this section of the agenda are discussed and will be acted on individually, acted on or discussed. Members of the public may request to speak on any of these items for up to 3 minutes when called upon for public comment. If you would like to comment, you're attending in person, speaker's card from the city clerk and we'll take care of you. Participating via Zoom, raise your hand and you'll be acknowledged. Whether here in person or attending via Zoom, when called upon, please give your name clearly for recording. If you have any documentation you'd like to share with the council, send to the city clerk, Marysville, city clerk 526 E Street, Marysville 95901. So we moved to the first item, item number 3, pulled from the consent agenda. The item reads as follows: approve a consulting agreement with IG Services. The recommendation: pass a motion to approve a consulting agreement with IG Services in the amount not to exceed $35,000 to develop an Ellis Lake water quality implementation plan. Mr. City Manager Jim Shad, would you like to take the ball from there, please?
This item is related to the ongoing issues with the water quality at Ellis Lake. Most everyone here is aware that we have struggled to keep the water quality at the lake in good condition, and previously with the Yuba Water Agency's help, we have studied the water quality of the lake and recently attempted to do some remediation through carp removal and a phosphate reduction treatment. The Yuba Water Agency was very generous and provided us with $142,300 to do that remediation, and that was after they had provided funding to do a significant study of the water quality. The bottom line is that the lake has an issue with phosphates that are nutrients for algae, and the algae grows excessively, particularly in the summer, and causes not only the poor appearance of the lake, but also smells that are less than attractive. We perform the carp removal based on using the grant funding, and that was relatively successful. We also treated the lake with a phosphate treatment, and that was temporarily successful, but was not nearly as long lasting as we thought it would be. Taking a step back after learning of what the issues are and how effective that treatment was, we felt we needed to move forward with some additional potential long-term remediation that we had discussed previously. The Yuba Water Agency, as I mentioned, had provided $142,000 to do the carp removal and the phosphate treatment. There was actually roughly $30,000 left over from that grant after negotiating with the contractors that performed those two tasks. We have asked the agency to utilize that money to perform some additional studies. Now, the original study looked at the lake water quality and assessed what was causing it. This study that we are proposing is to actually quantify solutions for remediation of the lake. It is broken down into essentially two approaches. The first being bring fresh water in from the Yuba River and circulate it through the lake. And the second is to continue to use well water, but treat it prior to going into the lake to reduce the amount of phosphates that are going in there. There are some advantages and disadvantages to both. I will be honest with you. I think once we do the study, we'll find that the long-term solution is to get clear water in from the Yuba River. But this study will look at the capital costs and the ongoing operating costs to do both. And it will provide us with information on the cost and the feasibility, as well as any regulatory requirements in order to do both approaches. There are significant regulatory requirements from multiple regulatory agencies that will have to be met, particularly on removing water from the river and placing it back in. I am proposing that we hire a consultant whom we've used before, Dan Bergman, to head up this analysis and begin pulling together the information to develop an action plan for treating the lake. If council and constituents recall, we also, through our budgeting process, approved an appropriation of $150,000 for this related to this cleanup. And I expect that we will be needing some of that money to hire other consultants from the environmental aspect and have our civil engineering folks at MHM help with the analysis. Dan Bergman from IG Services is would be the lead on this project, and the scope of work and agreement were attached to the agenda. The scope of work and his proposal are quite detailed. I am not going to go through all of that, but I would just open it up to questions at this point.
No public speakers on this item.
You heard me. Anyway.
Oh, and Dan Bergman is on via Zoom if there are specific questions the council has of him.
By your leave, fellow councilman, I'd like to comment right now. I thank you. The Vice Mayor and I are on the Lake Committee, and we've spent a lot of time on this. When I became mayor, within a month, I attended a meeting at the water agency. The water agency had been carrying the ball on remediation of the water quality problems at Ellis Lake. And they'd hired some excellent consultants. And they proposed a set of alternatives, one of which was chosen, and that was, as the city managers described, removing carp, or as many as we could find, and applying Foslock to capture the phosphates and take them to the bottom. That provided relief. It was visible relief, but it was fleeting relief. It was not the kind of persistent relief that we would require. It lasted in terms of months, not years. Since then, the consensus has developed among some that, and I include myself in that flowing water from the Yuba River through Ellis Lake and then back out through Jack Slough into the Feather River, and having circulation is the only real long-term solution that's going to provide high quality water for that lake. And for those of us who, like me, view the Ellis Lake as a treasure for the community, that's a good thing. That will have some expense, some significant expense. We have been in discussions with members of the Water Agency Board and senior management at the Water Agency. And there's no commitment, but there are indications that they are more than just open to looking at providing funding for just that, getting Yuba River out of the Yuba through the lake and into the Feather. They just need a plan to evaluate. And so we had 30 some odd thousand left over from this last, about 30,000 left over from the prior grant they gave us. And the council in this last budget added 150,000, so that there's $180,000 there. And we have a chance, an opportunity to present a plan, a viable plan, and achieve the water agency's approval and funding. Means putting a new pump in the Yuba River, getting that water into the city, which is no small feat, given that there's a levee between the two. It's been done before, and our city engineers is well experienced in those kinds of endeavors. And then finding a pathway, and that's kind of a tall pole in the tent, because there's an existing pathway, but we don't know what it looks like because there's been a cave in or something, and we don't know what that looks like, and this is going to cost a lot of money to figure that out. And then the regulatory matters. We are encouraged by a regulatory consultant we've discussed this matter with, Marcus Boyle, and encouraged to think that the regulatory matters at both ends can be achieved. It just might be, that might take some time. That said, we have one great opportunity to put together a plan and present it to the water agency. And the city has funded that. And it's a brave act by the council and the city to do that. It's not a sure thing, but it's the odds look very good. And we For Jim Shad, city manager's recommendation, we have engaged Dan Bergman, or the plan here is to approve engaging Dan Bergman, who the city has used before. And I give that approach. I've met with Dan. We've seen Dan do other projects for the city. I'm very much in favor of that. And thank you, council, for allowing me to go first on that. Any other comment?
I just have one
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I'm sure Dan will be looking into this portion of it, but at one time we were looking at the lines that came from, or excuse me, we were looking at the storm drain lines, and to designate one, everything was going to feed into the other. We were going to do some camera work. Did we get anywhere with that, or was that all put on hold?
It was all put on hold.
Okay.
We would definitely want to look at that possibility, as well as just a dedicated line. We also have some other funding opportunities to do general sewer and storm drain work that may be able to fund that camera work. And we should know about that in the next month or so. So the funding source may be different, but we will ascertain the condition of those lines. The thought process is there are two parallel lines, and one may be able to be dedicated to the route to the lake from the Yuba, but there will have to be some replumbing of some laterals into the other main. So that is part of the analysis.
Councilman Gilchrist.
Mr. Bergman, it's good to see you. I looked over your scope and budget to facilitate this plan. I'm looking forward for you to move ahead to approach number 3, 4, and 5, as that is the historic way that Ellis Lake received its clean, cold water. And that was how it was designed originally. Thank you very much.
Councilman Belson.
Yes, I've just got two things. First is a question for Mr. Bergman. What do you think a time frame is on getting back to us with the plan? Are we talking 6 months, or are we talking 3 months, or a year, or what's an estimate? And I won't hold you to it, trust me.
Thank you. Mayor, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, that's great. Technology is amazing. I want to start on this as soon as possible. I'm so excited about this, considering that Ellis Lake is really a centerpiece for the city, and even the community interest in the lake is already demonstrated in your meeting this evening. As far as timing, I would expect to be back to you within a few months with some type of report. My style of working with you and other cities is to keep you appraised along the way, rather than just to wait for one big report at the end. So I think the longest it would take to hear from me, at least preliminarily on what we've discovered, is a few months.
Okay, thank you. That sounds great. The second thing I'd like to talk about, and I'd take a few minutes on it, is talking about the overall picture of the lake as it originally was set up, right? We know that Yuba River water came into the lake, but also part of that system was that water used to be pumped out of the lake and dumped into Jack Slough, or similarly Slough, as part of that circulation process in keeping that clean. Now I see some of the scope and some of the language in the staff report talks about as evaporation takes water out of the lake, then there could be a replenishment, from the Yuba River. And I'd be curious to know, and I've talked about this in the past and would like to propose something as far as Mr. Bergman goes, and looking into the possibility. We have the pumping infrastructure at the north end of the lake to extract water out of the lake. And I think that it would be worthwhile, since we're digging into this, to look into what the feasibility would be to actually tap into the existing pumps at the north end of the lake and be able to use Ellis Lake water to irrigate Riverfront Park, the soccer fields, the baseball fields, Cotton Rosser Pavilion, et cetera. And what that would look like. And maybe it's not feasible, but I think that if we were able to cycle Ellis Lake water and use it in Riverfront Park, right now we're pumping groundwater in order to irrigate all those areas. And I know that groundwater sustainability is a big thing in California right now. And the water agency ought to be very concerned with trying to reserve as much groundwater as possible. And this may be a solution to help clean the water better rather than just waiting for evaporation. We actually can assist the process in the purification. So I'd like to propose that as maybe a potential add-on to the scope, and think about that as an option.
Just to clarify, in our alternatives, we're looking at two subset approaches. One is just to replace the evaporated water, but the other is active circulation. I don't know what the turnover rate would be. So one thought is just let it exit into the slough, but the other thought could be to pump it. It's going to end up in the same place, which is the Feather River.
The river.
So I do see that as an option to look at, and I don't think it's going to be a far stretch to look at doing that. So I think we can accommodate that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
that's gray water, Mr. Bergman, and gray water irrigation systems. Yes? Using gray water, recycled water for irrigation.
Yes, but are you saying that the Ellis Lake water would be considered gray?
We don't know that. That's what one of your studies will be to see if it is.
Don't be slandering our.
No, I know. No, but it's a great idea because it is, gray water is used in urban areas in order to save water where water is a valuable resource.
I would be careful about naming this gray water. Gray water is usually waste coming from households. And this has not been through any of our household systems. So it's probably somewhere in between.
Awesome. Okay, barring any further comment or questions, what is the will of the council on this matter?
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back in Marysville.
Happy to have you. The next matter that was pulled from the consent agenda is item number 6 on your agenda. I'll read as follows. Approve ordinance number 1445, approving amendment to chapter 9.50. And the recommendation is to pass a motion. Senator Barber, are you ready for this one? Chief Sachs was supposed to carry the ball on this. If you're not ready, maybe we should table this. You could, okay.
I may need some technical assistance.
I was trying to give a warning there. Anyway, sorry, Lieutenant. Recommendation, pass a motion to 1, adopt ordinance number 1445 that was presented and heard on June 20 of 2023, and 2, waive the second reading of the ordinance authorizing the changes to chapter 9.50 of the Marysville Municipal Code, and 4, transfer $10,000 from an appropriately numbered account, property maintenance and beautification, to an account for code enforcement or code enforcement abatement actions in fiscal year 2023. And I understand City Manager, Mr. Jim Shad, is going to make sense of that for us.
Yes, but I am going to proverbially fall on the sword here a little bit. Our council vice president and I had discussed this earlier, and I need to explain the kind of the chain of events that happened here. we do need funding to move forward with abatement of properties with blight. And our original proposal was to ask for $10,000 to start that off. Seed money, so to speak. Our chief and council had that discussion, and basically, in order to move forward with abatements, we have to spend the money up front. And so that was what the $10,000 was for. Coincidentally, our finance director, Jennifer Stasinski, had looked and found that there was an account that had not been active for quite a few years that contained roughly $35,000 in it. And it appears that we collected that money for essentially the same purpose way back when. So we already have the $35,000 of funding available to move forward. I would recommend, contrary to what the report says, that we may reconsider that and expend the $35,000 before appropriating another $10,000 and see how it goes. The caveat would be we may be coming back to the council mid-year if for some reason we spend more than $35,000. And I think that may happen if we do a major abatement, but the average run-of-the-mill abatements that we may be doing may not exceed the $35,000 in this fiscal.
I may ask city attorney for some input on this. Now, here it is, it's on the agenda, we're discussing it. There's been some new information that's come to light, understanding of the accounts. Would it be appropriate to vote on this or to table it, or? I mean, presuming would not go for vote. It's odd. This is not.
Yeah, very odd.
Well, technically, you've already approved the $10,000. The reason this is back is because
Well, that's right. It's coming back. It was already out there.
the reason it's coming back is because of an ordinance. Please, this is my ordinance that clarifies nuisance abatement process. So this is coming back for the ordinance only, not for the $10,000. If you wish to rescind that action, someone can put that on another agenda, but technically the 10,000 has already been approved.
Was that approved at the last?
Approved at the last session, but you have an ordinance that is introduced, and tonight it's on for adoption. That's the only reason you're seeing it.
And so I might recommend that we approve the ordinance, approve this, and then I will commit to proposing to rescind the $10,000.
Yeah, you can put that on another agenda. Since everyone voted for it, everyone can vote to rescind it. So you're fine. Just put it on the next agenda.
And we could simply amend the item here in real time.
Well, actually, that's also an interesting question. It is noticed, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess they could reconsider it tonight because it's actually.
We could amend the change, whatever change.
It would be
extra $10,000.
It would be lovely if we could do that.
It's actually on. It's actually on. It didn't need to be on because it was approved, but the ordinance is really why you're seeing this a second time.
Okay.
So, but if you wish to deal with the $10,000, all of you voted yes. All of you can vote. It's not a reconsideration.
So could we make a motion? Could someone make a motion to amend and approve the ordinance, but not or rescind the $10,000?
Someone can move to adopt the ordinance, but to rescind the authority for the $10,000 at this time. And that would do.
If someone wants to say that,
Well, seeing I'm the one that pulled it,
I don't know.
I would like to move forward with the approving the ordinance with amending our last approval of the 10,000 to remove it at the same time that we're passing the rest of the
That
ordinance.
sounds correct.
I don't see it as two
It works.
pieces.
That sounds
I'm not,
correct.
well, I'm not sure how to do this because I don't
You
see
just
the
did it. You
the
just-
money in ordinance, but approve the ordinance and resend our last vote on the $10,000.
Okay, we have, prior to a motion, we have a suggested amendment.
I'll second that. You gotta open it for public at some point.
We did public input. Okay, we have that motion. We have a second. We okay to vote?
You can vote.
Not a check. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move to item number 8 on the agenda. And I'll read as follows: accept Sacramento Area Council of Governments Mode Shift Grant. Recommendation. Here we're accepting a grant. Should be easy work. It's good to publicize this. I like it. Recommendation. Pass a motion to accept the Mode Shift Grant in the amount of $168,000 to fund the 14th Street Traffic Calming Multimodal Pilot Project. 2, authorize the city manager to execute the final agreement. And 3, authorize the city manager to execute the equipment use agreement to satisfy the condition of grant. And this will be presented by Public Works Director, Mr. Vincenzo Crazzo. Sir.
Well, very good. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Vincenzo Carrazza, your Public Works Director. And this item was a great fanfare because last council, we had a constituent talk about the traffic, the cut through traffic from Caltrans SR 70 through the neighborhood, through D Street, through E, F Street, all that neighborhood. So this grant, council approves tonight, will allow us to start charging to the grant. It was already approved back in February and March of this year. Mr. Mayor, you were on the SACOG Transportation Committee, so you approved it, and the Board of Directors as well. So this motion just allows our city manager to sign the agreement, and we start doing some work. Just to note, in item 11, we will be talking about paving, and so this item will be a pilot. And if council approves the paving job, 14th Street will be paved, and we will come in after the paving to put in some pilot traffic calming measures. Things like the median roundabouts on F, G, and H Street, and then the traffic light adjustment on E Street and 14th, and also the right in, right out driveway on D Street. So those are and also additionally, radar feedback signs to let the drivers know that they should be doing 25 through this area.
Matters now open for public comment. Any public comment on the matter?
No public speakers, Mayor.
Okay. Just in case you hadn't gotten a card in, I was going to give you an opening. Okay, matters now closed for public comment. Let's see, questions, comments from the council.
I'll make a comment, but I'd like to make a motion.
Well, I've got some comments. Anybody else? Let's see, what's the origin of this grant?
The origin, back in last November, we had an opportunity that came in to apply for mode shift, which the state had really wanted us to get out of our cars and get into bikes and walk, to change our mode of transportation. And we had the idea of, well, if you calm the traffic that's cut through on Caltrans, then the citizens will feel a little bit safer that they can walk and ride and take the bus on 14th Street. So our hope is that if we calm the traffic, that we'll have a shift in the mode to more biking and walking and transit.
Are you being modest, Mr. Public Works Director? Didn't you originate this grant? Wasn't this concept yours?
Oh, you're talking about, no, we have actually had discussions, remember with the Caltrans cut through and how we were going to tackle it.
Oh, there you
And
go.
traffic calming was one of those measures. I think actually city manager brought it up way before my time,
So
right?
to be fair, I said, how can we take advantage of this opportunity? It was kind of not a great fit, but Mr. Carraza came up with the actual methods for calming and what we proposed within the grant. He did an excellent job of laying out what type of traffic calming might be appropriate for the area.
I am on the Transportation Committee at SACOG. Did you want your flashlight on, Tom? Anyway, yes, I'm on the Transportation Committee, and those committee meetings are typically now via Zoom. And Carraza and I meet together for those committees, and Mr. Carraza spots opportunities for grants that would get past me. And I'm not, he just has a keen eye for these sort of things, and I wanted to compliment him. What's the will of the council on this matter? We have a motion to approve.
I just want to make a comment.
Oh, please.
First, because I think it's important to that we explain the fact that a lot of this is to divert the traffic also, other than the safety for pedestrians and bicyclists, but to divert it so it is going down E Street where it belongs rather than F, G, and H.
Indeed.
That's a big part of this. So I just wanted to throw that out. I think that's an important part of this whole process.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, that was unanimous. Thank you, Vincenzo. Okay, we now move to item number 11 on the agenda. Thank you again, ladies, sir. Measure, it reads as follows: 2023 Measure C SB1 pavement project status update. And contacts on this are our city manager, Mr. Jim Shad, and our public works director, Mr. Vincenzo Carraza. And for those of us who are not intimately familiar with all these codes, it would be neat if someone would describe what Measure C SB1 pavement project means. What's the Measure C? What's the SB1 component of that?
I will allow Mr. Carraza to explain that.
Sure.
Sure, yes. Again, Vincenzo Carraza, Public Works Director. As the council recalled, I did a presentation back in May about all of our paving projects. So Measure C is our 1% surtax on our sales tax. And it was, and I think in 2016 that the council enacted it. It's up again. I think it sunsets in
2026.
2026. And that raised a lot of funds for the city to go towards public safety and also for our roads. And it's been, the council had approved the budget to spend down Measure C, I believe about $3.7 million for our roadways projects. And SB1 is the Senate Bill 1 that was for the state had this bill that was passed for transportation needs.
So this is two funding sources.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So SB1, the state essentially gives Marysville about $25,000 a month. We've saved it up where we have a pretty good bank account of about $400,000 that we could apply. So combining Measure C and SB1, we're able to have a project we call it the 2023 paving project. So on 6/20, council approved our budget, and our finance director had mentioned that we would be rolling out a massive capital improvement project for paving. And right after council adopted the budget, we went to work. Our city engineer had put together a bid packet. On 6/23, it went out to bid, advertised in the newspaper and also our website. The exchanges picked it up. We had a bid opening on this Monday, July 17th. And the bids have been tabulated. We had 4 bids come in. We have a apparent low bidder. And on Friday, we'll be coming back to council to discuss that item and ask for council's recommendation to award it.
Thank you. Thank you. And what is, just in round numbers, what do you expect the total expenditure to be?
It is roughly 3.5.
Yes.
We're very satisfied with the bids coming in pretty much at what our budget was.
Okay. So the overall expenditure for the SB1 and the Measure C will be in the range of 3.5 or?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe a little, there will be a contingency attached to that, which would bring it up to about 3.8.
And this is the 22nd Street project and others?
Yes, 22nd, Del Perro, Nadine, Johnson, 14th Street. I mentioned earlier about the traffic calming one.
This is the shortcut alley we got over here.
The shortcut alley,
Um,
14th Street.
Since
over here.
the approval
19th.
is happening Thursday, I would hold too much discussion or for Friday. I mean, I think the general message is the bids look good. I think we'll be able to accomplish not only the base bid work that we had approved, but many of the ad alternatives that we bid out, but many of the ad alternatives. There are some details timing wise that we can discuss on Friday. But the majority of it we're targeting for this fall to be completed.
Hey, let's see, I got for public comment on this, Madam Clerk. I got lost in the conversation. I think we did.
We have not, but we do not have any comments.
Okay, well then, open and closed. Thank you. Will of the council or any questions or comments?
There's no action.
Oh, no, what am I doing?
No action.
Silly me. Okay, thank you. Okay, we now we will now move into a public hearing. Okay. All matters in this section of the agenda are formal public hearings and will be acted on individually. Members of the public may request to speak. When called upon for public comment, please go to the podium, wait to be recognized. Anyway, and if you're on via Zoom, you know the drill there, raise your hand via Zoom and you'll be acknowledged. Okay. The first matter up for public hearing is item number 12 on the agenda. Assessing the cost of delinquent refuse disposal charges against properties. Recommendation: pass a motion adopting an appropriately numbered resolution to assess the cost of delinquent refuse disposal charges against properties and to transfer such delinquent charges to the secured tax roll for collection in the same manner and at the same time as general taxes of the city. And I presume, Ted, you'll be presenting this matter? Oh, no, Jennifer's online. Excuse me. Our finance director is zooming in. Ms. Jennifer Stachinsky. Jennifer, can you hear us? Not yet. You carry the ball on. Testing 1, 2, 3, Jennifer. Okay. Our city manager, Mr. Jim Shad, is ready to pick up the ball on this. Please proceed.
So this activity is done once a year. It's been done for several years. And we are, the first one we're addressing is the refuse or solid waste accounts. Basically, what we're asking council to approve is a resolution to assess all of those accounts that are delinquent for refuse disposal through the Regional Waste Management Authority and Recology, and place them on the tax rolls with the county so that we can collect that money owed to the city via Recology as part of the tax collection process. As I had mentioned, we've done this for multiple years. It's an effective way of us collecting our funding. I think our alternative would be to turn it over to a collection agency or let Recology fend for themselves. But this has been a very effective way of collecting that funding. And I would recommend that we continue to do so this year. There is a list attached in addition to the resolution that shows the delinquent accounts. And those are the accounts that would have tax liens placed on them.
Okay. Matter is now open for public comment. Clerk.
No public comment on this item, Mayor.
Now closed for public comment. Council have any questions or comments?
I'm just a little bit confused. We had already passed this, correct? In a previous year.
Yeah, we've done this.
So what are we looking to exactly approve here?
If I can chime in.
Sure.
People don't pay their bill. Last year, they got liens placed for
Right,
collection. People now haven't paid bills this year.
right.
Comes up every year. If
So
you-
we have to reapprove it every year?
Well, it's a different list. It's a different
Oh,
list.
So
You have people who didn't pay their
So
bill.
if I'm understanding correctly, what we're approving is that we're moving this list to the lien process.
Yes,
And then next year, at the end of the year, if there's another one, we will move that one.
there'll be
We're not
another-
actually changing the ordinance. We're just approving this list to move. forward
Correct.
For collection.
That's correct. And if people pay the bill, they don't get a lien.
Okay,
Even if you take action tonight, their name will be removed if they pay the bill.
gotcha.
If you
Okay.
didn't do this, your rates under your franchise for collection would be much higher.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? What's the will of the council? Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, next matter. The same thing, only for sewer.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Okay.
I can take that.
I should probably read the matter. Item number 13, which is assessing the cost of delinquent sewer disposal charges against properties. Recommendation, pass a motion adopting an appropriately numbered resolution to assess the cost of delinquent sewer disposal charges against properties and to transfer such delinquent charges to the secured tax roll for collection in the same manner at the same time as general taxes of the city. And Mr. Shad?
So this is
Same thing,
nearly
same thing.
identical process for sewer. We implemented this last year, or excuse me, for refuse. Is she on now? Okay, let me see if I can wrap it up and turn it over. Same process, different list, newer to the sewer accounts. In fact, we came up with the process based on the fact that we were doing it for refuse. Once again, we have to approve putting this list on the tax roll for sewer and collecting that money.
Okay. I believe that's probably enough of an explanation from city. Matters now for public comment, Madam Clerk.
No public comment, Mayor.
Now closed for public comment. What's the will of the council?
Make motion.
We have a motion
Second.
and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, that is unanimous. Next item on the agenda, item number 14. Revise the boundary of underground utility district 20-1. The recommendation is as follows. Pass a motion to 1, conduct a public hearing. 2, adopt an appropriately numbered resolution to revise the boundary of underground utility district 20-1 on the east and west sides of B Street. That's also known as State Route 70, between 13th and 17th Streets and the north and south sides of 14th Street between Chestnut Street and High Street. In accordance with the attached, that would be an exhibit to the proposal with the agenda. Pardon me. In accordance with the attached underground utility district, exhibit 1 and 3, authorize the city manager or designee to execute agreements with involved parties to facilitate the undergrounding of existing overhead utilities in the underground utility district 20-1. Our city contact on this is our Public Works Director, Mr. Vincenzo Carrazza. Vincenzo.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Again, Vincenzo Carrazza, Public Works Director. This is a housekeeping item to update our underground utility district. In March 10th, 2020, the council had met for a special session, and within 7 minutes, they established the underground utility district, the only one we've had. My predecessor and the previous city manager had noticed from PG&E that the city would lose our work credits if the council didn't establish a underground utility district. So the council, through that action within 7 minutes, preserved about $2.6 million worth of work credits. And so we have an underground utility district. We've been moving forward with underground efforts after, I believe, the Caltrans Binney Junction project did not want to underground the utility lines on B Street, just north of Brightfield area. And so the city manager was pursuing with the PG&E to get PG&E to begin undergrounding their project. And we were in queue. It was about 8 years waiting in the line. And so we've met with PG&E staff to do whatever we can to be on the list and expedite it. We've been informed recently that the California Public Utilities Commission will wipe out everybody's work credits by 2033 if they don't have an active project, if they don't use it. So one, we are already on the list as having work credits. We have an active project. It's just, how do we get it moving? So one of the recommendations, and we met with PG&E, is that let's revise our map because Chestnut Street doesn't qualify for 20A, the rule 20A. And there's really no undergrounding activities on 12th Street. And now with the Binney Junction and the Caltrans not undergrounding the B Street property or the B Street utility lines, we want to move our map north to the railroad crossing. So I think it's called the Marysville Railroad Crossing, Marysville Railroad Junction. That's the southern one. The Binney Junction is the northern one, but by the high school. So the map will cover essentially a little bit from 13th Street north to the railroad and along B Street and along 14th Street. Once the council adopts this revision to the underground district and adopt the resolution, we can forward to PG&E and say, we're still interested, continue your project, keep us in line. We want to spend every work credit that we have. And with that, any questions on the map revision?
Just a minute, that's the presentation. Matters it now for public comment. Any public comment?
No public comment, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Not closed. Mr. Vice Mayor.
I know I was part of this when we did the first utility district, and I don't remember exactly what we had included. Although I can see what you've added, which is 14th and C and then around Bryant Field. The one I'm not sure about is along the railroad tracks. Was that just moved out from where it originally was?
The along the railroad tracks by Chestnut Street?
Yeah.
That just doesn't qualify as the Rule 20. So PG&E will say, we're not going to underground those because it doesn't qualify. Chestnut Street is not a arterial.
Right.
So then we move the boundary line out of Chestnut.
So no significant purpose, really.
If I were to interject.
Yeah.
The big changes are removal of the Chestnut underground, but that is expected to be covered by the developer.
Right.
But we've extended the undergrounding along B Street to the north. That it used to only go to Bryant Field.
214.
So we're going all the way up
15.
on the west side of the road.
To 50.
Yes. And then if you look at the two maps, we've extended it west into some of those neighborhoods. And we wanted to get actually past Ellis Lake on 14th Street. So the new boundaries allow us to do that as well and catch some of those neighborhoods in the western side of the lake. And we did provide the old.
All I have is the old map. That's why I was confused.
Okay.
All right. That makes more sense. Okay.
So
That
really,
answers the question.
sending 14 and going
Right.
north on B.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. That.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Oh,
I do want to interject, and Vincenzo alluded to this. We've been spending a lot of time discussing this item with PG&E and the CPUC. CPUC has changed their guidelines. There's some good and bad to that. The bad is they've sunsetted the program in 2033. The good is hopefully that we're in that window and still on track. I'll probably be retired by then to have this done in 8 years. And the other good is
take an early retirement. What's going on?
the other good is that there are some inactive projects that they will reallocate those credits from, and they're prioritizing disadvantaged and underserved communities, which we qualify for. So though it's not a done deal, it looks like in 8 years, we will have a project and get those poles undergrounded as long as there's enough funding available to do it.
So just a quick question to that, Mr. Mayor. So that means that they're not going to time it to go along with the project, the Benny Junction project?
They
go back and.
I tried my best to make that happen and talked or sent a letter. I think I copied council to their VP of undergrounding, and I basically got a no. So it based on the funding, the issue appears to be that there's not cash available. These credits are available only in a certain amount in each budget year. That's why our project is 8 years out, and they could not figure out how to move money around. Their real issue is they've got a line of projects, and if they bump us up, somebody else is going to be upset.
This is PG&E.
Yes.
So would we even know at this point if they were to do it in 8 years and Benny Junction is done? would they be going through that project, or would there, I'm going to assume that there's still going to be a right of way somewhere.
They would get the requisite right of ways from Caltrans. And, they have had discussions with Caltrans. They would minimize the disturbance to the roadway, probably do a lot of jack and bore type of activities if they need to do it.
Thank you.
I think PG&E is busy undergrounding lines through forests because not undergrounding lines through forests cause them to go bankrupt. Anyway, okay. Will of the council. Move to approve.
I'll
Motion
second.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Madam Clerk, that is unanimous. We now move to committee reports, comments, requests. I'm going to take it in order as presented here. Councilmember Belza.
Two things. Good job on the fireworks show. Got a lot of good reports on it. And so good job, Councilman Hudson, for no, I know, but I'm still gonna give you credit from 5 years ago, 4 years ago when you initiated it and got it back rolling again in Marysville. So anyways, nonetheless, good job. Second, had a great peach festival. First time I actually contributed to the 5K run, which was more of like a 5K walk, although I did run part of it, but it was fun. Saw some other electeds out there and good turnout in spite of the heat. So all things are well. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Gilchrist.
Peach Festival, great Peach Festival, and I look forward to having a meeting to give input on improving. Yeah.
Ms. Hauk from Sapphire typically gives a wrap up or post
Yeah.
briefing, so I would expect that.
Looking forward to that.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Hudson.
I have no committee reports, but I do have comments. 4th of July was a good show. There was a lot of people down in Front Park. MPD and Public Works did a phenomenal job on getting everybody out of there inside of like 35 minutes because I timed it. It was pretty good. So you guys got that park cleared swiftly and nicely. Good job on that, guys. Beach Festival was good. I mean, it was super hot. It looked like the attendance down was a little bit. Too bad there was more talk about the heat than there was what the festival was about. But it was nice to have the swamp pools out there. I do believe that Sapphire did a phenomenal job, both not only on the 4th of July fireworks show, but also on the Peach Festival. And it was a lot of work and effort put into it, especially with some last minute decisions after talking with Carrie Hauk and so forth. So I'm quite pleased and proud of this city and the staff for just being able to help out with those 2 back-to-back events in the month of July. That's a lot. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Vice Mayor.
Really no request, just a comment on the Peach Festival. I was unable to be there because I was up in the cool weather watching the celebrity golf tournament.
You elected not to be there.
I did. And I know how the heat is because I've played music in it the last 5 years, I believe. But just a shout out to all the musicians that played. My understanding was they were all troopers in the heat, and every one of them showed up and did their job well. So I just want to give a big shout out to those guys. I know how hard it is because I've been there.
I'll speak briefly about the Peach Festival. My highlight was participating in the presentation of awards, the Sodaro Honore Award and the Peter Baines Community Service Awards. The D.R. Baines Community Service Award. Blinking out here, went to Charlie Matthews. Or no, I'm sorry, that went to Jeff Stevens. My brain's not working. I was trying to remember all the names here a moment ago and I confused myself. The D.R. Baines Community Service Award went fittingly, Jeff Stevens, Say Love. And I was happy to commence the presentation by saying Say Love and Jeff Stevens are synonyms. They are one and the same. He personifies the wonder of that great organization. And it was my pleasure to be involved in it. And then I handed the microphone to Carm Baines, representing the Baines family. And the Baines family clearly wants to remain engaged in the presentation and the involvement in this award. And Carm had his entire family there, his wife and all his children, and gave a great speech. And I called him Cicero when he was done. It was so well done. It was really, first of all, it's a great honor, and it was presented with great honor. I was proud to be there and just be a little part of it. The Sodaro Honore Award went to my friend, Charlie Matthews. Sodaro family was there, and they actually presented the award and had words to share. And then Charlie stood and regaled us with some stories. Charlie is a member of the Water Agency Board of Directors, and by all indications, he'll be running again in this next cycle. He's a great asset to the community. I commented at the award presentation that I have read Charlie Matthews quoted twice, different occasions in the New York Times. Charlie's a big deal when it comes to agriculture and water and what have you. We're just so fortunate to have him part of our community. And it was my pleasure to be really my personal pleasure to just be a small part in the presentation of those awards. Madam Clerk, do we have any council correspondence?
Not for this meeting, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. City Manager.
Okay, I'm going to throw some things out there and get an assist from our Community Development Director. 2 new businesses opening, Edible Memories and Lakeside Cuisine. Ribbon cuttings for those?
Not scheduled yet, but stay tuned within the next 30 days.
Okay. Already talked about the Adopt-A-Park for Ellis Lake. Quite a few things going on with Ellis Lake. Next council meeting will likely have another item to propose to award a contract for the design of the green space around Ellis Lake. Very excited about. And I'm expecting that we will be awarded a Cal Recycle grant in the near future to supply some refuse containers and water fill stations throughout the community, including Ellis Lake. Our 71 unit affordable housing project got its certificate of occupancy, correct?
It's occupied, awaiting on the final certificate of occupancy, but it is occupied at this point.
I'm sure most everybody's seen it. It looks very nice, although the color isn't the greatest green, but
the green was disappointing.
But it's a beautiful development, and
it turned out really nice. If you get a chance, I'd encourage all the city council to take a look at it, and we should have an announcement on a ribbon cutting within the next couple of weeks on that.
Okay. We mentioned the street bid opening was favorable. We'll be talking about that significantly more on Friday special meeting. So public would like input. I'd encourage them to show up. Wayfinding signs are going up.
Start looking all over town and you'll notice
start
wayfinding
seeing
signs.
them. The old ones replaced with new ones. thanks to our community development folks and our public works.
What
staff.
kind of signs?
Wayfinding,
That's what I thought you said, wayfinding.
telling us where things are.
Where the Buckeye is.
Now I understand. Thank you.
Showing us the way. They're quite nice looking too, and they're replacing in many cases some really poor looking ones.
No, they're nice. They showcase the community.
Fireworks, huge crowd. Was this the biggest crowd we've had so far, Lieutenant?
It was actually.
Yeah, so excellent job from PD and Public Works of getting them in and getting them out. So thank you for that. Two more things. First of all, I did hear that our community development director turned in a better time than Councilmember Belza at the 5K at Beach Festival, but I haven't confirmed that with the training zone yet.
I just
To the chair, since my name was mentioned, I think I'm entitled to interject.
I can vouch
You know,
for
I'm
that.
just thinking your favorite.
I would like to note that I did have 4 children with me under the age of 8. One in particular that was 3 with a scraped knee that slowed us down dramatically.
I would
to
actually,
celebrate that victory.
I would actually vouch for Councilman Belza. He had the 4 children and he was actually pushing one of them in a car.
They were on wheels.
And I saw
One of them was on wheels.
I actually passed him up when one daughter lost her tennis shoe and then
Another
So-
delay.
The last thing I have, I'm passing around, and if we have Lieutenant can answer any details, but he sent this to me today, a flyer for National Night Out. That's happening during our August recess. August 1st, Tuesday at Triplet Park. We're going to have something similar to what we did last year, stationary, and hoping to draw a big crowd out there. Lots of activities for the youth especially. I'll turn it over to Lieutenant.
That's correct. We're still trying to facilitate different options for food, but we have the same type of events that we had last year for different stations for kids. And we're just trying to get more community involvement. We've already got a few large locations that intend on coming. And right now it's just the food situation we're trying to figure out.
So if anybody has, anybody that might be willing to donate for food to make that a better event, please let us know.
And you're done.
I'm done. Thank
You're
you.
done. Well, I'm in an odd situation here because it says the next regular meeting will be held today. And the next regular meeting, I presume, will be held after the August recess.
After the August.
So September 5th, August 15th. So we're just skipping the first one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next regular meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 15th at 6 p.m. Though we are planning on a special meeting, potential special meeting, pending the organization of the bids on the street projects we talked about this coming Friday, and that'll be noticed in due course. This meeting's now adjourned.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake. where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.